All right. So uh sometimes when I think about these things, I uh get not worried, but not worried. What would I say? Like the reason I'm making this video is because was having some thoughts about this video I'm watching, which is Three Blue, One Brown, and what quantum computing is. And um, what I found fascinating was something in it, like about like anyway. What I wanted to say firsthand was that typically I think these types of things all the time, but for some reason I feel like these thoughts are so obscure and random that no one understands, right? And like I don't want to be like depressing or whatever, but like it has felt unfortunately lonely, I guess. I'm not like terribly sad about it because I still enjoy it myself. Is the main thing. Um, and see, I'm already there. Like I'm probably talking nonsense that people don't understand, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like I was having such a intricate thought. I think about how something in this video is happening. So I'll play it real quick. If let me see if I can get the audio working. Hmm. Desktop audio to desktop audio to. That is the right one. Why am I not getting audio? That's why. I need to add. I need to add a new one, which in this case is going to be none of these. I'll just swap this one to browser because that's what I'm using. There we go. That makes the most sense.
Dwelling on the details of how those surprisingly simple. Remember that key operation we were looking at earlier? The one where you take the verification component, stay the same.
So I'm going to show you this part here.
To know is that it is also possible to flip this state vector around this equal balance direction. I realize it might be a little unsatisfying for me to keep declaring that certain operations are available, but one thing to know is that in general, if you can clearly describe and access one of these state vectors, it's also perfectly possible to reflect around it. There are some quantum gates.
So to me, when he says that, like, I feel like it's both a guilt of like it. I can understand feeling bad about having such a complex thing to try to describe to someone, and the pitfalls that you fall into if you think too much about it. About like, okay, well, this is happening, but how is that happening, right? Like, how is that? Like, because people need to know the nitty gritty to like understand something like that, right? And the only way that they understand certain things is by relation based on what they already know. So like that's why you see certain types of people that are very smart, but they might not be smart in a certain field or thing, right? Because they haven't learned in that way, right? The patterns in their brain that allow them to, or whatever knowledge is being built on the neural network that already exists that they use to uh, determine or learn that. Sorry. Uh, that's the only way that they're going to be able to relate. So that's how some things are easier to learn than others for different people, right? So in this case, I feel like it's both him admitting that he's guilty about, like feeling bad about, or he feels guilty about knowing that the viewer is probably really confused. And like, I could understand the feeling of like, you're making all these assumptions about how things work or declaring that they are a certain way. But how do I know? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Which is such an interesting thing because I can understand how that would be confusing. But also, the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place and why I'm rambling so long about it is that I understand. I think the logic of abstracting it in this way, declaring a higher level function of something happening without really defining the inner workings of that function, right? Um, like everyone drives their car and they understand the logic of how a car works, at least driving a car, but they don't necessarily care or need to understand what an engine is or what a power steering rack is or what an alternator does or what differential fluid is. Like those are all intricate details that no one needs to really understand for the most part. So in this case, it is possible for people to accept, but also I understand, being the type of person I am, being frustrated at this because it's not defining the lower level things and explaining why those things happen. But I know, knowing, being someone who kind of suffered through that kind of feeling, um, like this deep misunderstanding or not being able to understand what something is, um, it's okay to pull things back a little bit and kind of accept the way things are as they are, because you mean, like, you can understand the logic at that level, and then later, if you want to, you can dive in. You don't have to find out, right? And I think that's so interesting because I've had this happen, at least in my experience, so many times where I would be so stubborn and not be able to understand something. But as I've gotten frustrated with my frustration of not understanding, uh, I've been able to calm down and like take a different perspective. Or instead of being mad that I don't understand, um, instead be very open about it and like only let myself learn the thing when I'm in the mood to learn it, right? Because if I'm trying to learn something when I don't want to learn it, it's going to hurt my brain. I know that there's so many people who've gone through high school of probably feeling like that, right? Where you're so bored out of your mind from most of these classes because why do you care? But there might be like history. Like history is cool. Like you get to learn about either the like specifics of strategy or how history has evolved, or you can also look at it like having one person diss on another person or something and like relating to it in that way, right? Like understanding the social dynamics of history, right? Like there's so many different ways you can look at the same thing. Um, so there might be something that typically other people wouldn't enjoy, but you enjoy because you found a way to enjoy it, or you relate to it, tying it back in. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is I really appreciate when he pauses to clarify, um, about just declaring how things work, right? Because it can be frustrating. But I really wanted to make this to appreciate, I guess, like I feel like I'm still very bad at it, but like I've been trying to pull myself back and relax and just be open to whatever I'm trying to learn and think about it in the most unbiased way possible, because then that allows me to fundamentally access it from a different perspective, right? Um, and all I can say at the end of this is I really hope someone can understand what I'm saying here. Like I've been trying so hard because I struggle with getting things done because of ADHD and stuff. And it's been so wonderful to find ways to mechanically work around problems so that way my brain can be okay with it. Um, like being able to find a way to view something differently is a way to make it like much easier to understand. Um, and I guess one thing that maybe helps explain this is that I've somewhat recently, like, I've always knew that like sine waves and just waves in general were important, right? I used to like not fantasize, but like be obsessed with like these little graphs in the science notebooks, right? Of showing like the wave system, like radio waves, gamma waves, visual spectrum, right? Like that's so cool. But the sine wave, right? Just the sine wave, like just a sine wave. If I were to draw it here, probably very poorly, but you get what I'm saying. Sine wave, smooth, and then this is your axis here, right? Like 1 0 1 0, or rather 1 0 -1. So like once I started to understand this concept of wave forming, like being able to say, okay, if there's another wave here doing this, you can do the math to average these waves, which I feel like in this case would be something along the lines of this. Uh, I hope I'm doing this right because it's typically like the average of two waves. So you're like going through, and I'm sorry if this is a huge tangent, but it's just hopefully maybe me drawing it like this can help some people understand and like feel what I feel when I think about this. That's close enough. But basically, if the red line is another wave, like a second wave, you can add these up and it'll do something, right? And that's how we fundamentally have sound, like different sounds overlapping on each other, phases in electricity, and then just generally the way light interacts with things, or how patterns might emerge. And like, this has been such a wonderful experience for me to learn this. And I at some point, kind of, it wasn't like a single day. I was like, oh, this makes sense. It was just a very gradual transition of seeing where this appeared in my life. You know, I've mostly been doing audio stuff recently, so that's why been getting in the waves and stuff. But yeah, like basically what I'm trying to say is that like once I learned this and I had all this happen, right? Like I've been over time, like in the past couple of years, really trying to understand this stuff because it's so cool. I've been, what was I trying to say with that? Like I've been able to find a new perspective from which to view things. So the point of me saying that, and that is basically why I'm making this video. But I guess as a higher level to say, it's allowed me the ability to know that I don't know enough. And it's not like I used to hear that, and I used to think like, oh, this person's full of themselves, right? Like, oh, you're just admitting, like you're trying to be a strong person, right? Like is what I guess the perception is, or what I thought the perception was. But it's really just like being so open to learning new things because it's so fundamentally enjoyable and dopamine, right? For my brain, at least, to learn new things, right? Because then it means I can, like, having a deeper understanding of something is such a fundamentally freeing thing. It's just so good. Like, I can understand the world around me in such depth and clarity that I typically can't afford because I just like I dissociate a lot, right? It's provided me with this like framework to interact with everything, and it makes me curious all the time because I see the interconnections between different things, like how, like if you think of an airplane, there's so many different fields of engineering that are involved in that process, right? But they're all related. They all have things in common. They work together to achieve whatever a plane is, right? So like knowing that there's a more fundamental way to look at everything means that you can realize how interconnected things are, and like it allows you the ability to understand more things. And like if you were to think about walking and talking, right? Like you spend so much time learning how to walk as a child, and eventually you learn how to talk, and then you can do the same two things at the same time because you've just practiced it so much that you can just do it. Like I started a new job a year ago, and I've now learned every position in the store, and I know how to do everything. Like I can run the store myself if I really wanted to. Kind of. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but like I have all these lower level understandings of each position or whatever tasks need to be done, and I can simplify them and build upon them in my brain, right? I'm building these sub networks that fold into a larger network, and allow me to approach it with such hyper awareness, I guess. Like being able to so granularly work my way through the things that I'm trying to understand. And like it's really encouraged me to I used to be super like I'm afraid of trying new things, right? Like it's just a lot. It's overstimulating for me. But the most fascinating thing has been finally to get to a point where like I can kind of just function. I don't have to try so hard to deal with the things around me. I like kind of leaned into it, and was curious about it, and I learned more, and like I've been able to create a framework for myself to live within, and like you know, and then that's how you fundamentally build your work life balance, I guess, and what thresholds you are comfortable with. So like I don't know. Hopefully, this me rambling like this can help you understand how interconnected it all is. And like I don't know. I also might sound a little bit, but that's fine. Anyway, I am so curious to hear what you might have to say, whether you don't understand it at all, or if you did understand it entirely. I would love to hear your comments. I'm not just pushing that for the algorithm. Like, I'm actually very curious. I've always wanted to like talk about things like this in such a raw way, but I kind of have been afraid of it because I just want to make sure whatever I put out there is something people can either understand. But I think I got to stop worrying about whether or not people will understand and just put it out there, and I can figure that out over time. I can craft that. Anyway, I'm sorry if these are incredibly deep thoughts, but I hope this was enjoyable. Um, I just like thinking deeply, and I would love to share that with more people. And I would like to interact with more people that are able to think deeply, because it's so much fun. It really is. And not even just thinking deeply, like just knowing other people that might be be like masters in their own fields and stuff. Um, like that's the most fun. Like people sharing their unique experiences and skills and understandings or perspectives is so good. Like that's what life is sharing knowledge and passion, right? Like that's the key to life, I think. That's a really okay. I went a little off the deep end there, but anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Yeah, have a good day or night.